You're listening to the Hello Well with Danielle show, a podcast taking women of color on a journey exploring all things wellness and travel related. We're all about showing you how to put on your oxygen mask first and creating lasting self-care habits that will free you to travel the world and live the life you truly desire, and not one you have to fake loving. I'm your host, Danielle Washington. Now let's buckle up and start this journey. Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Hello Well with Danielle podcast. If you are new, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. And if you've been here for a while, you know I love you. I love all of y'all. Real check, real life, low key, not low key. I love all y'all. I love you for showing up, not just to support here and listening to these teas that come with each of my guests, but just also making sure that you're taking care of you. You're showing up to get this information so you can thrive and not just survive. And that's what I love about it. A little bit more about me, if you are new to the show, is that I am the founder of Rogue Experiences, which is a travel company for busy and overworked women of color who are looking to get away and travel the world. And on that note, I do have something coming up soon, so stay tuned fairly soon, but something coming up on the travel horizon. In addition to that, I am a certified Reiki master, as well as I do guided meditations as well. But today's topic came out of the community. I've had a couple people asking me about crystals and like what to do, how to use them. And like they just felt very overwhelmed. And I get it. It can be very overwhelming to like walk into a crystal store and like, do I pick by shape? Do I pick by color? Like, how do I know this is right for me? And I don't know when I'm looking at a certain crystal that this one's right for me versus another one. And so I couldn't have anyone else come on this podcast talking about crystals other than the most extraordinarily amazing person, Tiffany Burke. I want to say she's of Doers Beat Thinkers because that's her website for her manifestation tools. But Tiffany does everything. She's like a mad jack of all trades. Like she's like amazing. So she does the tools, the crystal tools and, manifestation tools. But in addition to that, she also does astrology, numerology, and she's expanding other things that she's doing because she's always learning. I love that about her. But she also, has an IT company. She does, she's a comedian and she's hella funny. Like she's amazing. I actually discovered Tiffany in the Clubhouse, a Clubhouse club called Rising Rituals, which is where I've been getting it's been like my academy. I call it my little university. Like every other day at 6:10, I get up and it's a place that I go to learn about different things, about crystals, about numerology, about manifestation, about protection, about rituals. And it's just a place where I just like being. Like, it's just, I don't know if you've ever been in a moment where you've been looking for your tribe of people. Like your friends are cool. You love your family. But when you get with a certain tribe, you're like, I've been looking for you. And that's what Rising Rituals has been for me. So if you haven't been listening to Rising Rituals, which happens every other day at 6:10, it is bomb. It is so amazing. It is so amazing. But, I would listen to her talk about crystals and how to use them. And I was just like, she has to be on this podcast. And so I really want to get down to it because there's so much information to give. So I don't want to hold you guys up any longer. But what I wanted to say about this is, because she schooled me on this, is a lot of people think of crystals as being something that's woo-woo. And she checked me in saying the word woo because it's not woo-woo. Because in the reality of it all, our ancestors have been using crystals. Crystals are even in the Bible. Like, look it up. It's in the Bible. So crystals isn't something new. And it isn't this new age thing that others, and I say others as I air quote the word others, are saying that are trying to, recondition us to say that, oh, look, we're training you to be. They've just rebranded what we've been doing and our ancestors have been doing for years and centuries. So this is a part of us. So I want you to listen to this information and know that this is just reconnecting you with your ancestors, what they were using, and learning how to use crystals as a guide, as a tool to help you, reach your goals and live your best life. So let's just get into this tea and enjoy. Hello, hello, hello. And thank you, Tiffany Burke, for being here on the Hello Well with Danielle podcast. How are you doing this morning?
I am excellent. How are you doing?
Fabulous. I am super, as I was telling you before, I'm your super fan. This topic is organic. I'm like, oh my God, she has to be on the podcast. Like, it's like, there is no other, I like to consider you the crystal guru for me. Like, you are the guru.
I love it. Like, I have most people know I love crystals. I love them a lot. So I'm just happy that I can share what I've learned and what I know about them with everybody else.
Okay. So let's just get started. Like, how did you get into crystals? Like, what got you to even touch crystals or even get into crystals?
I would say really my grandmother got me into crystals at a young age. My dad's mom, my dad's side of the family is Cherokee. So my grandmother was always one of those ladies that had like all the rings, all of the stones, specifically turquoise. She was a huge turquoise person, and she was big with amethyst when I was a little kid. And she just always had like some type of metal, like copper. She always wore copper. She had like these beautiful rings that were in the shape of a wave that like sat on top of each other. And she was just big on like, they were farmers, so they were just always one with the land. And when we would find a good rock, she would rinse it off and give it to me. So I just always loved, I was just that kid that had like a drawer full of rocks. You know what I'm saying? Like, and my mom would come and dump my rocks. And then I go and find more rocks. And then I grew up, and I would say in college, I was good. I took my first degree. I got a double. I started this program at University of Alabama. They started like this new college thing, which was like an interdisciplinary studies, because I was one of those kids. I mean, I'm an Aries rising where I couldn't decide really what path I wanted. So I worked with the university to create a school where people like me could create their own path. So I did a double in marine science and illustration with a minor in photography. Wow. So my first degree was focused on marine science. But because of that class, you had to take all of these geology classes and plate tectonic classes. And so the geology class, I like aced. I killed it, like Mohs scale. I knew every single stone in there. And I always loved crystals. I always loved stones. And then I started my consulting company. I went back. Went to nursing school at UA. I didn't finish, but I used that degree to be a clinical consultant. And once I became a clinical consultant, I traveled a lot. And one of my first clients, this was about 12, 13 years ago, sent me to Sedona.
Ooh.
And I had never been to Sedona. And that weekend changed my life in a way. It was just like all of these synchronicities were happening. Me and my colleague, we started off at the Grand Canyon. And then some people told us to go to, well, actually, they sent us to Sholo, which is where the god Fire in the Sky, Travis McCoy, if you were from the 80s and you know that story about the guy who got kidnapped by aliens, I actually met him and his niece, very nice people. The energy there in Arizona is just, it's different. I don't want to say it's weird, but it's like, you can tell there's some otherworldly energy in that area. And so we went to Grand Canyon that day, and all these people just kept on suggesting specifically to me that I needed to go to Sedona. And when I hear messages, I listen to them.
Yeah.
And so we head down to Sedona, and we randomly stop at this place called the Butterfly Inn. And this old white woman comes up to me and gives me a message. And it's like, you need to go to the vortexes. And I was like, okay. And she was like, I was like, random. I was like, okay, I don't know you, old person giving me random advice. And then we stop at this restaurant that was like 15 minutes away. And the first thing we see when we walk in is this book on the vortexes. And I was like, okay. So, I was like, all right. The people there saw us looking at it, and they were like, oh, you got to go to the vortexes. It's an experience. I was like, okay, whatever. And then as we're driving into Sedona, like right as you pass into the city, the first thing I saw was this huge sign that said Sinclair. And my consulting company's name is Sinclair St. Thomas. And I was like me and my colleague looked at each other, we were like, whoa. And it was a general post. And she was like, maybe we should stop there. So we stopped and we go inside. And the general post is full to the brim of crystals. Like I never seen so many. They had these barrels, like old water cowboy country barrels, just full of crystals, like all over the place. Crystals, rooms of it, like beaded beads and just all like, and you could feel, it was the first time I had felt crystal energy and knew where I was like, oh, this is something's up here. But what really took it to the top was another old white woman came to me and was like, sister, we've been waiting for you. And I was like, me? I was like, me? She was like, yes, I'm supposed to give you these. So she gave me a clear quartz. She gave me a desert rose and she gave me a hematite. Those were my first 3, like as an adult, stones.
Yeah.
And then she gave me some instructions. She was like, Spirit told me that you're going through some things, which I was at that time. And she was like, Spirit told me that you're going through some things and you're doubting yourself. I want you to take these crystals to the vortex and I want you to affirm yourself and say some manifestations. And I was like, mantras and manifestations. Like I had always kind of been a mantra and manifestation person, but I didn't I would say that the concept was more an outer thing, not like really I hadn't internalized and like accepted it fully, right? Because I had been saying, as a little Black girl, my mom always had me doing mantras, I am this, I'm that, but like really owning it. And so we went to the vortex and I just remember stepping into the vortex and the hair on my body, me and my colleague, to this day, we talk about this. Like we don't work together anymore, but we're still great friends. When we stepped, like maybe we got 50 feet outside of our car and walked to the vortex area and the hair on our body stood up.
Oh, wow.
And then the crystals were in my pocket and one of them started, like the clear quartz started humming, like almost vibrating in my pocket. And I was like, what is going on? It was very, but so then I remembered what she said. So we climbed up, I think it was Bell Rock, because we went to all of them. We made it a point to go to all 5 of the vortexes while we were there. But it was Bell Rock. So we climbed up Bell Rock and I sat like in a certain spot and I sat there and I meditated for 45 minutes straight. That was probably one of the first times where I had meditated that long and like consistently. And I literally felt like the picture, that golden picture of the Buddha, where the energy is like humming around you and you almost feel like you're about to float. Like there was a couple of times I felt like I was like my butt was levitating off the ground. I was like, yo, this is crazy. And I think the only thing that was really keeping me close to the ground was the hematite that was in the bottom of my pocket. Because I think with that quick course, it was just lit out. Like I was like lifted. Even my friend said, she was like, yo, at one point it looked like you were about to levitate while you were like doing your mantras and whatnot. So after that and that weekend, I got back to the hotel and I remember taking the crystals out of my pocket, putting them down, not thinking anything of it. And then the next morning, picking up my clear quartz and it was still humming. And I was just like, what is this? And so it was a Sunday and I remember just going down, I grabbed my computer and I went online and I went down a rabbit hole. And after that day, I was in a crystal shop, like weekly. I was buying crystals, like you name it. I had a crystal for it. And I got really into making them, like intentionally making the use of them part of my life. Like I understood that they were a tool.
Yeah.
And that they were there to help me. And the more that I did, like the more generational work that I did and ancestral work that I started doing, trying to figure out what I could on my dad's side of the family. I'm still working on my mom's side of the family. But with my dad's side of the family, it's just way easier because they were still alive at that point in time. Unfortunately, my mom's parents had all passed before this point. So I didn't have as much to get to, and it's hard to pull stuff out of Gemini's. But with my dad, it was really easy. So once I started doing the ancestral work on his side of the family, I just realized like how interconnected my bloodline on his side of the family really was with crystals, with indigenous things, crystals. And most people don't understand is we're a lot of the Black people that are here, we're actually the indigenous aborigines of this country. Mm-hmm. It's called the transatlantic slave trade for a reason, because it went 3 ways. Trans means multiple, like a triangle. And so in understanding that and being able to identify with myself with that, it just helped me be able to do the research that worked for me and understand it. Like crystals were one, my birthright and part of my healing and how it healed the generations of my family. So I
wanted to ask you, because a lot of people are so new to crystals, why use crystals and what is crystal healing? So for people understand a basic kind of understanding of it.
Yeah. So crystal healing. So first and foremost, we all are energetic beings, right? So we all have the understanding from the Bible that we are simply spiritual beings having a human experience. The bodies that we have are temples, right? Mm-hmm. But within that temple is housed energy of your spiritual infinite being that God placed within you, right? So most people have an understanding that there's 7 main chakras, right? Mm-hmm. But really, they're more than that. You have an external, it's probably like 19, 20 outside. You have chakras on multiple levels that are built within your aura. But we're just going to focus on the 7 mains. When our energy gets depleted and or blocked, we get angry, all these different things. That's because those energy centers that are listed, right, aren't moving and processed as well. Crystals help, when placed and utilized accurately, can help unblock and move and transmute and generate and or absorb, depending on the crystals, that energy. So, and along the way, I decided to become a Reiki master, a Reiki healer. So I like to use crystals on myself, on my kids, on whomever, any clients that come to me, to help balance out that energy that's within us all. Sometimes have the understanding that your energy is always going to be changing, right? You can balance your chakras this week, and then maybe next week they become unbalanced because something in your life has set you off, and that's totally fine. But I utilize crystals to come back, balance me, protect my aura, right? Clean my aura, rebuild your aura. Different crystals have a magnitude of properties that can be used to protect you, that can be used to cleanse you, that can be used to bring wealth to you, that can be used to help you speak better, that can be used to help you love better or love less or not be too empathetic. Just depending on what it is, that can help you with your sex life, even with medical healing. So I have to use that disclaimer. You still need to see a doctor. But some crystals truly have medicinal properties that assist you.
Yeah, no, I love crystals. And it's funny, you're not funny. I don't know why I always say that stupid thing. But my introduction to crystals was an ex-boyfriend who was a quote unquote energy healer. I think he was just an energy vampire looking.
You gotta be careful for those too.
Yes, I learned quickly. And so he gifted me the most beautiful large crystals, and they were so beautiful. But when I touched them, I was like, this feels like I'm going to throw up. It just felt so horrible. And when I finally realized, and again, this was before I kind of got more on my...
Was it a black obsidian?
I don't know. There wasn't anything black. So I know it wasn't black obsidian, but I know there was amethyst, cellulite. There was 7 of them. And they were all beautiful, but it all felt so evil and uncomfortable. And when I finally kind of realized that something's off with this person and I need to get away from him, I was going to keep the crystals, and something told me, no, throw those bad boys away. And so I literally just threw them all away. But I remember going to a crystal store and being hella overwhelmed, like, dude, there's so many crystals. How do I know which ones to get? And how do I know like where to start? I love living in San Francisco. There's the joy of sirens.
Isn't it the best?
It's like a parade of sirens. So how does someone figure out, like, what would you put in a starter kit? If someone's starting out, going to a crystal store, they don't have anything, but they want to start using crystals to help them with different things. Like what would be the starter kit crystals you would tell people you must have?
So I like to start with the 7 chakra starter kit. I have one similar, 8 stone, 7 chakras. First and foremost, a clear quartz. Then second, a selenite, because clear quartz is a master amplifier and charger. Selenite is a charger and a cleaner. Amethyst, right? So basically one for all of your chakras. So amethyst is just the all around great stone. It's a protection stone. It's a loving stone. It's an intuition and enlightenment stone. It's a sobriety stone. Like amethyst is all of the things. It's Pisces season. It's the birthstone for Pisces. The next stone would probably be sodalite or lapis lazuli.
Okay.
For your throat chakra, this is going to help you, vocalize the things that you need to say, stand up for yourself, speak your truth. Probably for the heart, everybody goes with the standard rose quartz. I love rose quartz. Don't get me wrong. It's just that I see rose quartz all the time. So I try to give some people other things like emerald. I love emerald as well. But if you're starting off, start off with rose quartz because it's a nice, gentle, love yourself, self-love overall stone. For the sacral chakra, most people, or where we're at, sacral, I did heart. Oh, solar plexus, citrine, or a golden tiger's eye. It's going to be one of those. And then for sacral, always, I'm going to go with carnelian. I love carnelian. It's just like the stone of courage. It's also one of those stones that also charges other stones. Mm-hmm. Secretly on the down low. Carnelian is just like the best stone. It's like it gives you that courage to get things done, to get things through, to stick up for yourself. So I love carnelian. And then for your root, so many different choices, but I'm gonna say for a starter person, I want you to get a black tourmaline. Or if you can't get black tourmaline, I would say a piece of garnet or a red jasper. Okay. I really gave you more than you need, but.
No, I think people are itching. I was asking a friend who is new to crystals and kind of like, what do you want to know? And so that was one of her questions she wanted to know. The other thing I think about when, okay, so you have the starter kit, how do you pick crystals? And like, how do you pick crystals? And my follow-up question to that is, how do you know if the stones are fake or real? If you're going to like a basic store, and obviously not your store.
So how do I pick crystals? Now that I'm like, I pick them for you guys. When I go to my wholesaler, I use my energy. Like I read the energy of the stones. And now to see if it's fake or real, they're just different. Depending on the crystals, they're different signs that let you know that it's fake. If it's citrine, anytime you see like a citrine that's really dark, that's like almost a brown or like this really weird orange kind of, that's not real. Those aren't real. A citrine is going to be of a lighter color, almost like kind of close to a clear quartz, yellowish kind of tint to it. If it's natural citrine, it should not look dark. It should not look burnt. If it does, then that means you actually have amethyst that's been heat treated to become a citrine. And if you get fake amethyst, and you got to understand that amethyst and understanding the geological build of crystals, amethyst and citrine a lot of times run on the same vein together, which is how you get ametrine, which is amethyst and citrine that's been fused together, right? So that's why it's really easy for people to easily get, duped into fake citrine or fake amethyst. A way for you to figure out if it's fake amethyst most amethyst is not going to be purple. Like, and when I say purple, I'm like, like Hanna-Barbera purple. Yeah, that dark purple. And you can tell, you'll see like ink. You'll see the ink in the agate or in the crystal quartization that doesn't look right. It'll almost look like somebody dyed it and you can see it. You know what I mean?
I don't know if any of you are like me. I'm like, once I get off this, I'm like, I'm looking at every single crystal that
it's one of those things, because even like sometimes in the beginning, I was getting duped and I would be like, this energy doesn't feel right with this crystal, and then do the research and be like, oh, it's not giving me the effect I want, because that's not the right crystal. It's not the crystal which it says it is. So,
the crystals, which I'm now recommending, well, I would have recommended anyway for y'all to go directly to Tiffany, because her crystals are bomb, and we're going to talk about her process. But like, if I'm at a basic bitch store, like, and I'm going in, and Karen's helping me out, like, I typically do is I'll grab and see how it feels. Like that.
Yeah, how it feels. If you hold it up to the light and you see bubbles. Bubbles are a sign of glass, right? Now, striations or cracks and stuff like that, that's totally different. But generally, if it's a clear quartz and it's got like a bubble hole, like something that just doesn't look, you'll know. The chances are it might be fake.
Right.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I said in the great words of Keith Sweat, something ain't right.
Yeah, some just ain't right. It just ain't right. And for me, when I'm holding it, I talk to my friends have become crazy. I talk to my crystals. I talk to crystals when they're in the store. I'll tell the ones that are real, and I'll be like, hey, if you're a real crystal, come to me. And I gauge the energy that comes back to me. And I've been to some stores before where when I walked in, there was no vibe. And that let me know, one, this is not the place for me to get my crystals from. I'm very particular about who I get my crystals from, the energy that they have in their space. If their space isn't conducive, or I don't feel good when I walk in, I'll leave and I won't purchase crystals from there. And that was before I even started, like, being a supplier. Mm-hmm. I really try to gauge the people who are selling me these stones. And then, as a supplier, I really talk to my wholesalers and I want to know, where's this mine at that you're getting the crystals from? Is this an ecological site? Like, how are they getting their crystals? What steps are they taking to get their crystals? Who do they use to go find their crystals? Is this child labor? Like, I want to know all of those things before I buy the product. And even if they reassure me or I know that that's good, even before I get them to you guys' door, my crystals go through like a process, which is why it does take time when you place an order to get crystals from me. Because one, any crystal that's coming to the store or that's on the store, I've done the work with that crystal before I release it to the public, so that I can give you a true understanding of the energy that you should and or can tap into with that crystal. And I just try to be very cognizant of that. On top of that, before they even get in here, they all get cleaned with selenite. And they're all stripped away so that any negative energy that might have been attached, or any negative entity that could have been attached to the crystals, are removed before they get into my space. So I'm very, very intentional on that. I just am.
No, I think that's important. So how do you know? I mean, one of the questions I had also was, does shape matter? There's like, different points. There's they come in cubes, they come in, spheres, they come in pyramids, like they come in all these different shapes. Like, does it really matter?
So it depends on what you're doing the work for. It does. It can. So I wish I have a copy. Like, some clear quartz have different geometric shapes, right? Like like clear quartz generally are are cut sometimes into a hexagonal shape. And then those could be mother and child, where it's like a crystal's actually fused next to and with another one. Those are good for, directing energy. Then you have some crystals that are shaped a different way that help you tap into Akashic records, which is like past life records. It just depends on what you're doing. Some people only like raw stones. Some people will only get a raw version of the stone. I am of the mindset of tumbled stones are just as great as raw stones. Mm-hmm. It's really how you utilize and you withdraw the energy out of that crystal, and how you learn to tap into it. Even though I'm the expert, I always tell people you should do your own due diligence and do more research so that you know what's best for you. But shapes can assist you, especially if you're doing like a crystal grid or you're doing something that's intentional where you're trying to direct energy. Like for selenite, I literally have a selenite wand that I use for my body for wiping down. That's going to be totally different than the hexagonal plate selenite that I lay crystals on. So it just really depends.
And you brought up crystal grids. What is a crystal grid?
So a crystal grid, you can do it a couple different ways. I make crystal grids, which is they're depending on the grid plate that you use. You can use a wood one. But it's just you placing crystals in certain mandala formation, whether it's flower of life or it's a true hexagon or whatnot. And you're setting up crystals to harness their energies together for a specific purpose. So like if you're trying to bring in wealth to your home, you can make a crystal grid that has a citrine in the middle, green aventurine on the middle outside surrounding that. And then on the outside of that, more citrine, and then maybe some pyrite, and then cockle shells. And what happens is they act as a conduit to generate that energy into the citrine that's then sent out. And when you say your manifestations and you're praying to God, all of that energy is manifested into the grid and then out towards you, and it protects your area and brings whatever it is you're calling into your space.
And I just recently using a crystal grid. I have a Reiki crystal grid, and today I charge it, and kind of, I work with it every single day, which has been really interesting. So I'm trying to get more into grids. What was I going to ask you? I was going to ask you, how do you, you talked about so many different types of crystals, talked about how to find crystals. I've heard you talk before, or I've also heard other people say the same thing. Sometimes some crystals are not for you. How do you know if a crystal is not for you?
Oh, so, okay. So I think you and I had like a brief conversation. You were talking about like certain crystals made you nauseous, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say that the crystal isn't for you. It might be that you're not ready to deal with what that crystal's going to bring up. Okay. Prime example, obsidian. And you'll hear me talk about obsidian, especially in the clubhouse room a lot. And I warn people when they buy it, and even so that they have the preface understanding. These are tools. So don't think that these tools are always going to make you happy. Okay. They have a function and a reason. And if the function is to make you address issues that you're trying to hide from, then you might not like that. Obsidian is a prime example. Obsidian is a black, beautiful stone. Some people call it Apache tears. Mm-hmm. But it is a stone that will remove negativity from spaces, from people and whatnot. And that is very uncomfortable. And like I told, we really embrace this petty attitude in our country, petty behavior. And if you a petty person and you didn't order an obsidian crystal from your girl, okay, and you're holding on to it and you just happen to be petty that day, best believe you're going to be feeling some things in the immediate, if not at the same time in which you did it. You're going to start feeling kind of sick that day. because the job of the stone is to remove the negativity. And if you're the negativity, it's going to start making you sick.
I hope you guys heard that because that was a word. It's funny because I do wear obsidian. When I was in Costa Rica, I was looking for crystals. I was walking, down the street, minding my business. And I think we talked about this. And I'm literally across the street, out of the corner of my eye, I like something drawing me. And I'm like, that's my crystal. That's my crystal. And I literally run over and I found this beautiful crystal. It's jewelry. I'll post a picture online of it. And the guy said he made it about a month ago and no one has ever looked at it. I was the first person ever looking, like, that's my crystal. And so I just knew that was my thing. But when I heard you say about the, pettiness, a couple of weeks ago, I was like, I gotta be careful because I can't be team petty. It's in the bloodline.
It really is. And, it's just like cord cutting. There's certain crystals, and I think I talked about this the other day. If you're trying to do cord cutting, but you're not ready to cut cords, friend, don't buy certain things. If you these are very they're going to do their job that they have been set and intended to do. And if you're waffling, then it's going to be a very uncomfortable situation for you because it's going to make you address the things that you said that you want to address, but now you don't really want to address. You know what I mean? So, and it's going to take you through it. It's an emotional roller coaster. I won't say that you won't be this ain't pretty. This is work.
It's not all about moments with crystals. I get it. And you talked about cutting cords. What are good crystals for cutting cords?
Good cord cutting crystals. Selenite, always. Selenite's going to remove. Malachite is a really good cord cutting crystal. Well as black kyanite. There are a lot of cord cutting crystals that you use. Black tourmaline is going to be good for cutting cords. Even black obsidian, black onyx. Those are going to be great cords for cord cutting crystals for you. Even amethyst. Amethyst is an excellent cord cutting crystal.
And, and I know there's some people who are listening to this and I believe in the Bible. I feel like this is some kind of, some sort of sort. I know, and that's why I wanted to also have you on here. Crystals are mentioned in the Bible. Can you talk about crystals and the Bible?
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. So, because, I always get you're going to hell.
You're going to hell.
You're going to hell. Crystals are mentioned in the Bible so many times. We can just start at Exodus, right? In Exodus, if you love Moses, like I do, my first son is named Amir Musa, after Moses. Moses used this magical staff, the Zoroaster stone. First and foremost, Moses was a prince of Egypt. Let us not forget that he was heir to the throne. And he, while he was heir to the throne, he had a beautiful amulet of lapis lazuli because he was part of the royal family. That's in the Bible. As well as when you get into the story of when he comes back to free his people and you read about the staff, what most people don't know, they barely glimpse it. And one, you got to decide on which version of the Bible you're reading. I like to always I use multiple texts to allow me to get the information that I want. But in the Talmud and the Torah, they talk about the staff and how the Zoroaster stone was on that staff that God had given to Moses, and only people of Moses' lineage could use that staff. So if you remember, one time Moses drops the staff to the ground, Aaron picks it up, and then Aaron can use the staff and wield the power of the staff because the Zoroaster stone was on that staff. My favorite all-time Bible linkage to crystals is going to be King Solomon. King Solomon was the greatest and the most wise, the richest man in history. If Mansa Musa was the richest, then he's Warren Buffett, and King Solomon is Jeff. But actually, Jeff Bezos and them hadn't even got close to Mansa Musa yet. King Solomon was 10 times richer than Mansa Musa. But if you know anything, we always learn about the beautiful temple that King Solomon built. And that that temple was made of 37 different layers high of crystals. Okay. First layer, sardonyx.
Yeah.
Sardonyx. Also, if we go back to Exodus again and we talk about the brotherhood of the 12 tribes of Israel, right? The breastplate of the Lord. And I think I've tweeted this for you guys before. The breastplate of the Lord has 3 rows on it. First row has sardonyx, has onyx, right? Has beryl, which is now considered garnet. Second row has carnelian, had labradite, had emerald. And then the next layer had labradite. Look, did I say labradite? Black onyx, amethyst. I know I wrote it down somewhere. Basically, the breastplate and the black plate of the Lord was literally this. First of all, you got to be a strong person to be able to carry something that's one encrusted in heavy stones and jewels, with gold, with gold anchorages on the shoulders to protect yourself during these wars that they were fighting for the Lord. And just the placement. I remember talking about it in the room the other day. Like, they placed carnelian, which is a chi charging, or like your energy charging crystal, right above your liver and your pancreas, which is where you get energized and your blood is filtered and recharged. So I was just like, look at God. So, that's one place. There's so many different other places in the Bible that discuss crystals. But only we have to also remember that's of what we've been allowed to see, because the Bible has been edited so much. So I would love for us to get those missing books from the Vatican one day, maybe.
We do our Da Vinci Code on our own.
You know what I'm saying? I want to know. I want to hear the missing women's books. Like that's the books I'm waiting to see what the ladies had to say.
Such a dream. Like, and so we talked about crystals in the Bible. We talked about crystals for our own, like, personal body. And, I know that you can also use crystals for your actual space. Can you talk about how you can use crystals to kind of in your, like, where your living space is?
Yes. So for protection, I use black tourmaline everywhere. Outside the house and the foundation, just to black. And that actually too is biblical. They talk about protecting your house with different stones on the outside ruins as well. I put selenite in a lot of the window sills and the door sills just to clean and clear the area at my front door to block and protect my house and to keep the good vibes. I literally have a bowl of clear quartz and a variety of different amethysts and a selenite, as well as like in the kitchen, I have different crystals for like happiness and well-being there. So a rose quartz, some more amethyst, citrine, what else? Some bumblebee jasper in a bowl. I also put, so in the muddy corners of my house, I put pyrite, I put malachite, I put citrine, I put, what else is over there? I have like a nice little, but I have these bowls like strategically placed in different places all over the home so that I can keep the energy in the house clear, especially like in the living room, if there are arguments and stuff like that happen, or just, discussions that occur. I like to keep good peace stones.
Well, that's a smart move.
And yeah, right. Because it diffuses the energy. Because like even if a fight's about to start, it's like magic. They always like seem to calm down and go to their separate rooms, which has worked out perfectly.
This was my parents' house. Just place them in places. I'm like, oh, y'all just don't know. All of a sudden, you're quieter.
Yeah. Right. It's my favorite. Like and sometimes I won't they won't even know that I did it until later, and they'll be like, "Wait,
you just got
use crystals on us?" I'll be like, "Man, pretty much, man, you just got crystal."
You just got crystal. That's you just got crystal.
I think I have to trademark that before the end of the day.
Yes, you do. And so, you have all these crystals. How do you know when to clean them and how to clean them? And how often does
So, because I use my crystals on a regular basis, if you're a person that's actually using your crystals every day, I would advise that you utilize selenite, a bar of selenite, or like I showed you, a hexagonal plate of selenite or whatnot. And you need to sit your crystals on those every day after you use them so that they can charge and cleanse themselves. With the selenite, I always charge them on the new moon and the full moon, unless it's a chaotic full moon or a chaotic new moon. And what I mean by that is like moons close to like eclipses, moons close to like chaotic energy. If it's an astronomical time where it's like the moon is in Mars, then you might not want to charge it with that type of energy. You just have to be cognizant of the energy that's coming with that moon. So like this full moon in Virgo, this is probably one of the best times to charge your crystals, right? You got 3 days before the time of the full moon. And then I utilize the 3 to 4 days after because that's still a good time period. But you're going to get in and bring in the energy that's produced by that moon. So like the Virgo full moon is going to be orderly. It's going to be a lot of good, like get her done type of work. That's going to come with that energy, which I love. So it just depends. But I try to charge them all the time in the full moon and in the moon. And then I clean them daily. I'm also a very active user of my crystals, probably more than most people.
Now,
I charge my
just your selenite wand? Do you think? I know some people say they can clean them in rock salt. You know, some people.
Well, selenite is salt, which is like selenite is salt.
Yeah, it makes logical sense.
Yeah, selenite is basically salt. So I used to, once I got really more in depth and had an understanding of what selenite does, I stopped using rock salt. I stopped using water because it wasn't necessary. Selenite does the job, and that is its job. Its job is to clean and remove the energy from all other stones and recharge it. So it's like, to me, it's using selenite to clean my stones just make it more effortless. And I'm very careful. I used to clean crystals in water, and unfortunately, our water isn't the cleanest anymore. Even if you're using spring water out of a plastic bottle, it's still leached with chemicals or whatnot. And even if you're using a fresh stream, like the river I have, you don't know what's in that stream anymore. So I just try to protect my crystals the best that I can. So I utilize selenite as my cleanser and my charger all the time.
No, that's smart to hear, because I feel like, I've been doing a lot of extra stuff that I didn't need to do because I always do.
Yeah, it's just a lot of extra. like I like to kiss everything. Keep it simple.
Simple. Keep it stupid simple.
Stupid.
Let's see. So you buy all these crystals, and this has been, I'm talking for me right now. So I bought all these crystals. They just resonated with me. I love the description. And then I've had them for some years. And then I look at them, I'm like, girl, what the F is this? How do you identify crystals years later if we don't have your knowledge?
So that's why if you buy crystals from me, all of your crystals come with a beautiful, hold on, give me 2 seconds.
So right now, she's actually going to go grab something because I bought some crystals from her that are coming soon, which I'm super excited about.
This was the one reason why, big reason I wanted to start my own crystal company, and I wanted to do it my way, was I hated that exact thing that you said. I had bought a whole bunch of crystals when I first started off, and I didn't take a picture of the names, and I couldn't remember anything. And they didn't send you with anything. They just send you with your crystals. So when you buy a crystal from me, every crystal comes with a tag that goes in the bag with your crystal, right? So you forever know, okay, I know. If I can at least look up the picture, I know the name of the crystal, right? But I give you a tag that has what the crystal is, some of the properties of the crystal, some of the abilities and attributes of the crystal, the chakra that it's associated with, the zodiac, and the planet. and it's laminated. It's nice and easy, and you can keep them with your group. And then that way you get more accustomed with your crystal over time. By the time you've had this for a long time, you know it because you've seen it. And I did that just because I'm a visual learner and I like to know the thing. So I made the product. I made my product the way I would want to receive it. Just because, you know, I buy crystals. I used to buy crystals from so many places. And that was my biggest, like, that I hated was I was like, dude, like, I don't remember what this crystal does.
Yeah, I look at some of them like, I don't know what you are or what you do. But this leads me to asking, you talked a bit about your process. So you talked about, you know, clearing the crystals of all their energy when you get them. But can you explain kind of what else you do before you even send it? Because like, I know for me, until I met you, I was real sketchy about buying crystals online because I didn't know about the energy of people. So but I know you go through so many different things. And like when you send your crystals, you're sending them with so much love and they're just been super charged. So can you talk a little bit about your process?
Yeah. So my process, before I even come into my space, I'm very intentional in my space. I always make sure one that like for the day, I've washed myself and rinsed myself of whatever energy is on me before I even step into this space because one, I don't want to transmute any of my maybe not good energy for that day to anything that might go out to other people. On top of that, before I even touch anything, I wand myself down with selenite so that I clear my own aura. And then when I am working with crystals or getting ready to Reiki charge them, one, I have a process that I go to, which, you know, unless you're a Reiki initiate, I can tell you. That I get before I tap into God and source to get the energy that's going to help me charge. Because not only do I charge your crystals by the moon, I also Reiki Reiki each crystal, all of the crystals before they go out. So I go through an intentional meditation beforehand, and then I go through that process. Now, also my crystals, they're like my babies, they're family. So my crystals get sung to, my crystals get danced with. They're treated like part of my family. My youngest son, he's about to be a Reiki master of his own at 8. And dude, he's hilarious because he'll come in and be like, the aura is good today. And then he'll just walk out. I'm just like, all right. I'm like, okay, Sadhguru Guru, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, ready for the world. Siddhartha, he's just hilarious. But my space is very intentional. Everything is protected. All of the crystals then go through a process where I work with them first. And I make sure that I'm clearing any like energy substitute that might have been left. I try to get that. And until I feel like they're all the way clean, I won't sell them. So most of the crystals in the store go through like a month process where they've been cleared and cleansed and cleared and cleansed and cleared and cleansed before I even get them onto the store. So if you see new stock happen, that means that I've been working on that crystal for like at least a month and a half.
Wow, I love that. And the reason why I started buying crystals from you, because I heard that you did all this stuff. And I'm like, and also just something about your energy. And so I cannot wait to get my crystals. I cannot buy more from you and continue learning from you. You're just such a wealth of information. So that being said, how can people follow you? How can they learn how to buy from you? And also, you do so much more. So can you give people a little bit more tea about the greatness that makes you the Tiffany extraordinaire that I am loving?
Sure. So if you want to know more or want to purchase crystals, you can go to www.doersbeatthinkers.com. You can find me on the IG at Doers Beat Thinkers, or I think on Twitter it's at Beat Doers because they wouldn't let me have Doers Beat Thinkers. And then What was that? I'm sorry.
Twitter be hating. I had to go as Danny, and I'm like, I hate the name Danny.
Right? I was like, I don't want this name, but okay. I'm also, as you guys heard in the story, I own a management consulting company. So luckily that lets me do a wide variety of different things. I am also a stand-up comedian. And actress. I love doing that. I learned as an actor that you can't be a full-time actor. You got to have fallbacks. So luckily I already had those in life. So I just, my Aries rising has made me a very much a jack of all trades, which as a younger kid, people used to make fun of me and say that was a bad thing. But now as an adult, I get to be like, look who's laughing now, because I'm the queen of the pivot. I always say that, like, I can pivot like nobody's business. And I just enjoy life. Like, I just feel like I was always, as a kid, really enamored with Harlem Renaissance. Mm-hmm. And my favorite person was Paul Robeson. And what I learned from Paul Robeson was, like, you can do it all. Paul Robeson had, like, 6 different, like, professional things. That he was a lawyer. He played basketball. He was an actor. He was a Shakespearean. I mean, like, Paul Robeson did all of the things and did them well. And to me, it just spoke of, like, the resilience and the ability. Plus, my grandmother always told me, like, you should have 7 streams of income in your life to survive, period, point blank.
You missed one of your incomes, the readings.
Oh, and yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm also an astrologer. I forgot. I was like, I'm also, you were like, excuse me. Yes, I'm also an astrologer. I love the stars. If anybody knows me, like, I'm all about some astrology. I do a special astro natal customization box. That's crystals. We do a breakdown of your astrological placements, your big 3. And then I look at your chart and I advise upon, after our review, crystals that are good for your aspects that will either help magnify the strengths that you already have and or work on the aspects that might be problematic for you in the future and or in the past. So I love doing that. I'm also a Reiki healer, Reiki master. I just love living life, man. I feel like you should really... There's so much time to be done living instead of sitting and waiting for other people to entertain you. Entertain yourself.
Yeah, so. I love it. And you can also find her on Clubhouse, which is where I found her. She's often in the Rising Rituals room. And she also has
Stars, Numbers, and Crystals class on Fridays on Clubhouse. And we're going to start a couple of other rooms that might be private, specific to crystals in the Bible once we get a good... I'm all about structure before I do stuff. So
I love it. So at the end of every show, I always ask a couple of quick fire questions. Nothing.
Okay.
So it is whatever comes to your mind first, answer. And we're going to add a couple for you because I just had some other things I wanted to ask. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So first question is, why did I have to forget the first question? This was so crazy. I'm like having a mental breakdown. Let's go with aisle or window.
Oh, window.
What does it mean to live hella well?
Rest. That's what's living hella well. Rest. Like, I don't feel like you can be living well if you're not rested and a full belly and money. Or what Cicely Tyson said, a happy Black woman is money in your pocket, hot sauce in your bag, and quiet. That's what.
I know that's right. Okay, what is always in your travel bag?
My crystals.
What is the best crystal to travel with? Or 2 of the best crystals?
Malachite, amethyst.
Love that. I travel with both of those. And the last question for you is, I always talk about this wellness revolution to try to get women of color to stop putting themselves on the back burner and put on the oxygen mask and taking care of themselves. What advice would you give to your younger self about really, truly stepping into who you are and taking care of yourself?
I can cuss. Fuck these niggas, okay? Fuck these niggas. Don't worry about these niggas, okay? Love up on yourself, son. We are going to be great. That's all.
Mike motherfucking dropped. I love you too. So much. You guys are probably going to listen to this a couple of times because, again, Tiffany gave so much information. But I'm so grateful. Again, please, please, please follow her. I'll make sure to put her information in the show notes. But she is literally an amazing person to know.
Oh, thank you.
And just a wealth of information. There's stuff I didn't even go over because we ran out of time. But
it's so much. It's so much. We could do a part 2. We hadn't even topped into I hadn't even told you about like your corporate, your management consultant. I had your business running like a listen.
Yeah, well, we didn't even talk about the days of the week and the crystals and that.
No, we didn't.
So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Definitely, follow Tiffany. If you have any, comments or other things, leave it, on one of our Twitter feeds. And other than that, I will see y'all next week. Talk to you later. Ciao.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Hello Well with Danielle show. Make sure to visit our website, hellowellwithdanielle.com, where you can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music and never miss an episode. Also, you can follow us on social media at Hello Well with Danielle on Facebook and Instagram, and Hello Well Danny on Twitter. And if you hella love the show and got some good nuggets out of it, know that I'm not too proud to ask for you to please leave a rating or review on iTunes so that we can continue to expand our reach and help other women of color. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you next week. Ciao.